Hey friends, hopefully you're having a great start to your morning today. We are going to be talking about two words that I believe you talked about in second grade as well. Okay, we are going to be talking about parallel and perpendicular. So parallel, I like to remember that one, and you're going to notice that there's two L's in it, and that's a good way to remember parallel because parallel is like this. The lines are right across from each other and they look just like the L's in parallel. Okay, and that means that the line segments in these are never going to cross. They're never ever going to cross. They're always, I like to think of them as like railroad tracks too. Looks just like a railroad track. So if you can remember parallel. Perpendicular means that you're going to have a square corner. Okay, so you're going to have that nice 90-degree square corner. So we're going to look at some of the examples that they're giving us in the blue, and we're going to be doing some of these pages together, just like we would be if we were in the regular classroom, okay? But whatever Mrs. Hagen writes, that's what you write. All right, here we go. Let's look at the first blue square. The line or line segments in these pairs are parallel, okay? So you can see, you can just go ahead, circle these two are parallel, they're never going to cross. These are all examples of parallel. So they're giving us 4 examples. Okay. Now, our next one says the lines or line segments in these pairs are not parallel. Okay. We can tell that because we know that the way the lines are, that they are either crossing or they're going to run into each other eventually. Okay. See how they're crossing? All right, so we want to write a description of parallel line segments. What do you think, just based on what I just said, what would you say parallel means? Remember, these are segments, 2 line segments that are parallel if they're the same distance apart and they also never cross or meet. So I'm going to say lines. You're going to write what I'm writing. Lines are same distance apart. I'm making these as short as I can, guys. Same distance apart. All right. And then the other thing that's super, super important to remember is that lines never cross or meet. Never cross or meet. And we can tell the examples that they gave us up here, these are crossing, so they're not parallel. These are going to meet. They're going to run into each other, aren't they? These are crossing, and these are going to run into each other. So those are not parallel. Okay? So you're going to write that on the line. Now, in the next section in the blue boxes, we're going to talk about perpendicular, where Mrs. Hagen talked about having that square corner and having that 90-degree angle. Let's read our first blue square. The lines or line segments, remember, the only difference when they say lines or line segments is either the arrow or the dot at the end of the line, okay? The lines or line segments in these pairs are perpendicular. How do we know that they're perpendicular? Okay? Because they cross or meet at a square corner. So let's just circle, is this a square corner? It has that little box which tells us it's a 90-degree. This one has 4 square corners, doesn't it? This one has 2, and this one has 4. So these are all perpendicular, okay? Let's look at our next box. These are examples of ones that are not perpendicular. The lines or line segments in these pairs are not. Like this one right here, you almost think that it's a perfect square corner, but it's not quite there because it doesn't have the little box in the corner, does it? And we can tell these guys aren't because why? Because they cross. All right, so let's look down. We want to now write our own definition of what we think perpendicular means. So they're perpendicular if they cross or meet at a square corner. Okay, so we're going to put it in a little simpler terms. Okay, so we're going to start with lines again, just like what we did up above. So lines are perpendicular if lines are, you can put perpen if you want, just to make it shorter. They're perpendicular if they cross or meet at a square corner. At a square corner. Okay. You're probably writing neater than me, hopefully. So these are the examples right here that are showing that they either cross or they meet at a square corner. All right, when you are ready, I want you to meet me on the next page, which is 456. All right, here we are, guys, on page 456. We kind of have a lot of talking pages today, okay? But it's important information, so just really try to be a good listener. And when Mrs. Hagen is circling things or pointing to certain things, I want you to do what I'm doing on your paper as well. All right, so now we are talking about types of angles. We've already talked about a right angle, haven't we? Okay, so we're going to learn some new vocabulary words that are up in this box. Our first word is ray. Our second word is angle. Our third word is vertex, which I think is probably a new word for you. And then the last one is right angle, which we've already talked about quite a bit. Okay, so let's read about what a ray is. A ray is part of a line that has one endpoint and continues forever in one direction. So notice here, I want you to circle, it has one endpoint and one arrow. So we know that the arrow tells us that it's going to continue in that direction. And these are all examples. So if you could just circle those for me, and we can tell because it's got an endpoint and an arrow. All right, then we're in the blue box. It says two line segments or two rays that meet at an endpoint form an angle. Okay, this is an angle right here. I just want you to kind of go like this and just make a little mark underneath there. And the point where they meet, so I want you to put a circle right here. That, and I always remember that it's called vertex because it almost looks like a V. So if you can remember that vertex is that part where they meet. Okay, and they have some other examples here. They're showing a right angle, right? And then here again, they're pointing to that vertex. And how about over on this one? Can you circle where the vertex would be before I do it? Okay, it's right here. That's the vertex. Very important vocabulary word. All right, we're right here now, so stay with me. An angle that forms a square corner is called a right angle. Circle this. Or we should be remembering that in order for it to be a right angle, we have to have this square in the corner because that tells us it's a perfect 90 degree. Some angles are smaller than a right angle. Okay? And that's, you can tell here, this is not 90. This is smaller than 90. Okay, some angles are larger than a right angle. You can see that this is bigger than 90. Okay, maybe you have a highlighter or something that you could be highlighting what I'm highlighting here. Okay, now we're going to answer some questions down below, and we're going to be using all these things that are on this row, and we're going to choose the angle that fits with the clue below. Okay. These angles are named with a letter in the corner. So I have angle V, I have angle W, I have angle X, I have angle Y, and I have angle Z. So let's read our clues and we're going to see which one goes with which clue. All right, let's read number 3. Which of the angles are right angles? Can you look up at your 5 choices, and I want you to write down the letter right here of the one that you see that's a right angle. Okay, and when we do that, another little clue, okay, did you pick W? Hopefully you picked W. Did you pick W? So you can say angle W, just like that. You make a little angle sign. You could also write out angle W. You cannot just write W, okay? All right, let's look at our next clue. Which of the angles are smaller than a right angle? Remember what a right angle is. A right angle has that perfect square corner, like W. Which angles are smaller than W? Okay, look at your choices, okay? Okay, so I'm looking at my choices. See if you can figure, because there's more than one. You're going to pick two this time. So you're going to have angle something and angle something, because there's two of them that are smaller than 90. Okay, think about if you put your palms together right now, put your palms together and make a perfect square corner. You want to find two that are smaller than that. So move your hands a little closer together. All right. See if you can write down the two that you think are smaller than 90. Okay, well, I'm looking at X. So this is definitely smaller, isn't it? It's not a square corner, it's smaller. So angle X is one of them. Okay, hopefully you got that one. I'm looking at Z, and Z is bigger, isn't it? But look at Y. Y is smaller than 90, isn't it? So then my other one is angle Y. And I'm guessing you maybe got those on your own, hopefully. Now, it says which of the angles are larger than a right angle? So larger than 90. Look at your choices, okay? I'm looking at V. That is definitely larger than 90 because it's open bigger, isn't it? So I have angle V. And then when I look at Z, if you don't look closely, you might think it's kind of a square corner, but it's not because it doesn't have that little square in the corner. So it's actually bigger than 90, isn't it? So I have angle V and I have angle Z that are greater than 90 degrees. Okay. All right, we have one more page where we're going to do some things together, guys. Okay, today's kind of just a learning day, so I will meet you on 457. All right, guys, last page for today. Thanks for hanging in there with me. We are going to be talking about triangles. That's our vocabulary word, and you might say, well, we've known triangles since we were in kindergarten. Well, that's true. Okay, but we're going to be talking about how triangles can be described by the types of angles that they have. Triangles can be described by the types of angles that they have. So we're going to look at the angles down below. Okay, let's read this section right here. It says, in these triangles, two perpendicular line segments meet to form one angle that is a right angle. I want you to look at all the yellow triangles and I want you to circle the area where two perpendicular lines form an angle, and we know it's a right angle because it has that little square in the corner. So we're going to go ahead and circle all of these that show that that has a right angle. Okay? Different kinds of triangles have different kinds of angles. Right? Let's look at the green ones. It says in these triangles, three angles are smaller than a right angle. So we're looking at the corners. The angles are the corners. So if you look at all these green ones, all of the angles are smaller than 90 degrees because they're smaller than a right angle. So I want you to circle, see these right here? All of those are smaller than 90 degrees. I can see that. Do you see that right there? If you highlight it, that's smaller than 90 degrees, okay? So we can do this on our corners, and we can show that all three, it has to be all three of them, are less than 90. Okay, so you're doing what I'm doing. All right, now look at the orange ones. It says in these triangles, only one angle, so only one corner, is larger than a right angle. So larger than 90, so greater than 90 degrees. So we're going to look at the orange ones, and I want you to look at all the corners. Let's look at the first one. Which corner is greater than 90? And I want you to use your black pen or your highlighter. Okay, so I'm looking at the first one. I can see that this angle, this corner or this angle is bigger than 90. Okay, doesn't have that square corner, so we know. But it also has some baby angles too, doesn't it? Okay, let's look at the second one. I see two little ones right here, but I'm looking for the one that is greater than 90, which is this one. Do you see how that's bigger than 90 degrees? Okay. And I want you to try to find it in the next two. I just want you to highlight the big angle. Can you show me the big corner? Can you do that with the next two before I do it? Okay, did you do this one? See how that's bigger than 90? And then this one is also a bigger angle, isn't it? Bigger than 90. All right, now for the bottom section, it says use triangles K, L, and M to answer the questions down below. So they're going to give you a clue, and we need to pick the correct triangle, okay? And you know what? I think I'm going to let you do this part on your own because I've been such a good helper today. So read the clue. You're only going to use each triangle once, so figure out which clue goes with which triangle. You got this. Thanks, guys.